Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of Why Can't I Make Progress in the Gym. If you didn't get a chance to watch part 1, I'd recommend going back and watching that. We talk about one of the big mistakes I see people making when they're trying to increase their uh, recoverability in regards to sleep, hydration, and nutrition. In this video, we're going to be talking about training volume and intensity and some of the mistakes that I see people running into when they're trying to regulate those things. I'm going to try and avoid getting into specifics simply because what's optimal for you is not necessarily what's optimal for somebody else. And the amount of sets you should be doing in a week or in a cycle, and the percentage of your 1 rep max that you should be using, things like that, they're very individualized. And so we're going to try and keep it general, and hopefully you'll be able to apply these ideas to your programming and your training. When I get new clients, they usually fall into one of two different categories. They're either doing too much or they're doing too little. The first category is what I see most often of doing too much. I think this is because high volume training has become so popular in the last few years, and for good reason. To some extent, volume is going to be a driver of progress, but I think it's being taken to an extreme in many people's cases. So we really have to be careful when we're adding volume to our program without really having a good reason to do so. There's two main issues that people run into in category 1 when they're doing too much work or with too much intensity. The first one is they're not recovering properly. I get a lot of people that come to me and they're doing a ton of repetitions and a ton of sets, but their sleeping habits aren't that great. The amount of protein and carbohydrates and fats that they're ingesting in a day isn't enough to be making to be recovering from their workload, and the amount of sleep they're getting isn't great. If you are doing a certain amount of work, you need to be able to recover from that work in order to make progress, because all we do when we go into the gym and lift is add stress to ourselves. The only time we get bigger and stronger is if we recover and adapt to that stress. Our body recovers and adapts to the stress when we eat and drink and sleep and do those things. So if you're not seeing progress in the gym and you're doing a ton of volume and you're thinking, man, do I need to do more volume? Probably not. You probably need to increase the different aspects of your recovery. You need to look at how much protein am I eating in a day? How many carbohydrates am I eating a day? Am I only getting 4 hours of sleep at night? That needs to improve. Am I not hydrated throughout the day? That needs to improve. So if you're not seeing progress in the gym and you're doing a ton of volume, it's possible that you're doing too much volume, but it's also possible that you're just not recovering from the workload that you have right now. So that's something that you need to take into consideration. There is the other side of that, which people who are just doing too much. Maybe their recovery is fine and everything, but they're just doing way more volume than they need to be doing to make progress. The issue with that is that we don't leave ourselves any room for growth. If we can do 4 sets a week and get gains off of that, then there's no reason to do any more work than that. Because there's going to come a point where we have to do more volume and we have to push the amount of reps and sets we're doing. So if we increase the volume now when we don't need it, we're using a very powerful tool that we could be using down the road prematurely. And when it does come to that point where we need to increase our workload, but we've already increased it, we're going to need to do that much more. And so we're really kind of screwing ourselves in the long run if we're just adding repetitions for no reason. So those are all things you got to consider if you're considering doing more volume or you're already doing quite a bit of volume. On the other end of the spectrum, there are some people, it's not quite as common for me to see, but there are some people who just aren't doing enough. They come in and they want to do one heavy top set, and maybe 1 or 2 back off sets, and then they'll go home. For the average person, this probably isn't enough volume. You should be doing multiple sets of multiple repetitions, and you know, you can change the repetitions. Hopefully you have some type of periodized program, but you should be doing 4 sets or 5 sets with 3 repetitions, or 5 or 8 repetitions in each set. This is going to allow you to get a lot more volume in, a lot more hypertrophy, and it's going to allow you to make progress in the long run. When I see people come in and not do enough, it's because they want to lift heavy and they think always pushing that new 1 rep max is going to be where the progress is made. And for some people that works. But in my experience and the experience of my clients, and what I think is going to work for lots of the average Joes out there, is just getting in more volume. And when I say more volume, you have to take into consideration what I said before. But if you're only doing 3 sets a week, 4 sets a week, on a deadlift or a bench or a squat, you can afford to do more. It's okay. So if you are struggling and you're not seeing progress in the gym where you want to see it, and you're thinking about, maybe I need to increase my volume, you don't need to increase it 2-fold or 3-fold. Add 1 set a week. If you're doing 4, do 5. If you're doing 5, do 6. And do that for 12 weeks and just stay at that volume. And that will most likely carry you to a new level that you haven't seen before. And there will come a point where you probably have to add another set. And then there will come a point where you have to add another set. But there's no reason for us to jump the gun and add a ton of work right away, when we really don't need to be doing that to make progress. So hopefully these are some general ideas that help you guys out. Just remember that small, consistent changes in your programming are what's going to make the big difference in the long run. If you guys are struggling with implementing these ideas and you need help with the specifics, it may be time to hire some one-on-one coaching or get some type of advisement. We do offer that at the website strengthisthesolution.com, and you can check out the link to that in the video description. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.